Hello, how are you? My name is Phil Earl. I am the author of of When the Sky Falls, and this is another in a series of videos that are aimed at you guys who are working with this book in class. Thank you so much for picking it up, by the way, especially you lovely teachers. That's amazing. So today I thought I would talk to you a little bit about the process of writing in itself, because I never wanted to be a writer. Growing up, all I wanted to do was play football for the mighty Hull City, who are, of course, the greatest team the world's ever seen. Correct? Correct. But that never happened. I wasn't good enough, or quick enough, or skillful enough, and as a result, I drifted into doing other things. But I'd never dreamed that one of them would be being a writer. And it wasn't until my mid-20s that I really became interested in children's fiction, and I started reading as much of it as I could, and as a result started writing it as well. And one of the things that I've learned about being a writer, one of the things that I love most about writing, is that there are no rules to being a writer. You know, I can't sit here today and tell you how you go out there and become a writer. You have to discover that for yourself. And the wonderful thing is that what works for me might not necessarily work for you. So a lot of people will often say, before you start to plan a book, to write a book, do you go out and plan it meticulously, chapter by chapter by chapter by chapter? And for a lot of writers, that's exactly what they do, because that's what works for them. It's the way of them mapping out. Some people almost do draw it as almost like a mind map, you know, like a diagram with bubbles and lines connecting things. And that can work incredibly well for a lot of writers, and that's brilliant. If that's the thing that works for you, then absolutely follow that instinct to plan your work out before you start. For me, that's not how I write. How I write is I sit down with a basic idea or a basic inspiration, and sometimes I know what happens at the end of my story, but not always, and I literally sit down and write the first thing that comes into my head. It doesn't matter whether you are a planner or whether you write simply by the seat of your pants, like you're riding that roller coaster for the first time. It doesn't matter. What matters is that while you're writing it, you are excited by what you are writing. This is the beautiful thing. There are no rules to writing. What I would say is that when you are writing, it's really, really important that you feel excited by the journey that you're going on with your character. And if you can think about a basic shape for your stories, I would think about it in these terms. Think about it, and bear with me because I'm terrible at maths, but this does make sense to me. Think about it almost as a line graph. When you do line graphs in maths, the most exciting line graphs are the ones where there's lots of things happening. A line graph that does this, that just goes flat, is pretty boring, isn't it? And think about your writing in the same way. Think about the journey that your character goes on as looking like a really exciting line graph. Let me explain. There are going to be times in your character's journey where really exciting things happen, and sometimes they will succeed in whatever obstacle is put in front of them, and so their line will go like this. But there will be times as well where you must put in front of your character obstacles that they can't jump over, so they will fail. Because it's only by seeing your character down here at their lowest ebb, battered and bruised, it's only by seeing them pick themselves up, dust themselves down, and go again. That's what makes you fall in love with a character, and that's what makes for an exciting read. Because if all you do is read about a character who succeeds and succeeds and succeeds and succeeds and succeeds, for me as a reader, I'm bored by that. There's not a lot of suspense or excitement. What I want to see is my characters succeed, but also fail. So in the end, what you have is this series of almost like mountaintops. Or if you think about it in another way, as like a roller coaster. You know, a great roller coaster isn't just one big climb and one steep drop. It turns you on your head, and then it lets you get your breath back, and then it turns you on your head again. And then it'll take you quickly to the left, and then quickly to a right, and then it'll go back and do it all in reverse. And in a way, that's what writing a great story is all about. The best piece of advice I can give you about writing is one that comes from a really great writer called Marcus Sedgwick. And if you've not read his books, I really recommend you do. His key piece of advice is don't be boring. And that might sound really daft, but to me, that's spot on. Whatever happens in your story, you've got to make it as exciting as you possibly can. You've got to take your character's life and wring every bit of suspense and drama and intrigue or horror or laughs or enjoyment. Wring every little bit out of that character that you possibly can. So find what works for you. If that's planning, great. But if you want to experience what it's like to live that life as a character for the first time, like your reader does, then don't plan. Experiment. See what works for you. You can tell these stories. As I say, I didn't start writing until I was 28. I never thought that I would possibly be a writer. So if I can do it, then you can as well. Good luck in reading When the Sky Falls. I really hope that it might give you some ideas for your own stories as well. I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.